Today, I will be taking on the challenge of trying to draw something that I don't know how to draw. I will be going through the task of trying to draw something from my imagination with no reference, drawing something for 30 minutes, doing as many studies as I can, trying to learn as much as possible, and then reapplying from those studies to another drawing from my imagination. And we're gonna see if in only 30 minutes of study time, if I can end up improving my drawing by a significant amount. Can he do it? Is he literally insane? This is like way too serious. Like, I don't know why. Before we get into today's video though, I wanted to bring up that I have a Kickstarter coming out. The beginning of this year, I've been working on a series of playmats, desk mats, whatever you want to call them. And on August 15th, they're coming to Kickstarter. So if that's something that you seem interested in, or you just kind of like me and want to support me, you can find a link down in the description below, which will take you to the pre-launch page for the Kickstarter, where you can get notified for when the Kickstarter goes live on August 15th. Damn, I said that so succinctly. Anyway, now we'll get back to art or drawing or whatever the hell I'm talking about. I don't know. I'm recording this days earlier. I'm sure it's something good. Okay, so in order for this art challenge to actually be legitimate, to feel like I'm actually being challenged, I have to find something that I've never drawn before. And I've drawn a lot of things over the many, many years. I think what makes the most sense is for me to try and draw something like an animal. I've drawn quite a few creatures in the past, but never really anything out of the ordinary. So I can't do like a dog or a cat. So I had to think of some sort of an animal. What is an animal that I've never, ever drawn before? And I found it. It's camels. I've never drawn a camel. So the way that this is going to go is I'm going to try and draw a couple of camels from my imagination. It's gonna go horribly wrong. And then I'll be starting a 30-minute timer. I'm gonna be trying my best to learn as much as I possibly can in that 30 minutes. And then I'm gonna be trying to draw another camel from my imagination with no reference. So let's get started. Okay, oh geez. Okay, camels. God, what do camels look like? Okay, I know their body generally, they've got 2 humps. Okay, they got really, really long legs. They got weird toes, I know that. I also am assuming that they're probably similar to like a bovine. So that kind of gives me a bit of an advantage here. That even though I've never drawn one, there's still anatomy that's similar to this in other animals. And then I think there's like a long neck. Have I drawn a camel? This doesn't look half bad. So this is looking pretty decent already. And I think there's probably gonna be some people that are watching this and they're like, whoa, okay, that's like already a camel and it's looking really good. Remember, I'm going primarily off of like some of just what I can kind of remember camels looking like from any time I've seen one, as well as having an understanding of like kind of bovine anatomy. And I don't even know if they're technically bovines, but anything, they seem like horse-like, you know, so I'm kind of going off of that a little bit. That being said, when I get to their heads, I have no idea what's going on. What do they look like? I mean, I think they have like droopy faces. I'm gonna draw like Chester Cheetah. This is what that's starting to look like. I feel like their noses droop or something. And it's like a cartoonish looking camel. Oh, geez. Okay. Okay, he's smiling. That's not what I want. I don't want him to smile. He's got like a chipmunk face. How does that work? So for those that ended up watching my last video, what I'm trying to do here is I'm trying to find these areas that I don't know. I don't know what's happening. And so some of those areas are definitely in the overall anatomy, but a lot of it is here. A lot of it is in this head structure. I don't really know what the skull is like. I don't even know what their ears are like. All right, so I have to figure out what are the things that I need to learn. I just need to learn the whole head structure. I just need to know what is going on with that skull. What are the major shapes? What's going on with the ears? What's the anatomy like in general? As for the body, there's some things that I feel like you could get away with. Like you'll still want to know the neck anatomy, but I feel like what's more important is figuring out where it inserts and how much of it is like loose like this. And so like, I don't know if it necessarily would actually snake down like this. So that's what I want to kind of learn. I want to learn like, does it snake down or does it just like insert kind of? All right, so just a few minutes of sketching. I'm already figuring out, like, I don't know what this is. I don't know what I'm doing. So I'm going to get a little collection of camel images together, and I'm going to take about 30 minutes, and I'm going to study. And I'll have a little timer here so you can see. Okay, so I'm just going through really quick, and I'm just adding a bunch of images of camels that I can find online, trying to avoid the AI looking stuff. And I'm throwing all of those into a big PureRef folder. These ones have 2 humps. Why do some of them have 2 humps and some have 1? The fuck is a camel even? They do look like Chester Cheetah. So what I'm doing to help clear this up in my head is I'm just going to be separating like the head shots and the overall anatomy, the like zoomed out shots. That way I'm not having to sort of like decipher each and every single thing. This is actually really important. Trying to get reference of them like moving too is going to help me better understand what's happening with their anatomy. Okay, I'm going to get a couple. I'm going to get a camel skull. So I think that's going to help a lot with the head structure. Or not. What the hell is this? Ew. What is wrong with camels? Oh my gosh. All right, and then I'm going to get like camels galloping or something. Oh, great. They just don't move, apparently. What? Like, what? Okay, here we go. There's like one shot of camels moving faster than 1 mile per hour. Great. Okay, so I gathered my reference. In total, that was, you know, about 7 or 8 minutes, something like that. All right, so I'm going to start the timer and we'll see what I learn. So I'm starting with the skull because I'm going to be able to see what is happening underneath that's sort of informing all of the things on top. It might be too much information for me to sort of parse though, so I might jump over and just start learning directly what's happening on top and then go back to the skulls to make sense of it. They got like a really tall like peak of the head like that. That's really interesting. Okay, so now if I go and I look at something like this and I draw this, what I'm trying to do is also like, how can I simplify this? It's not just about knowing the anatomy. It's also kind of knowing these like shortcuts, like kind of like proportions for humans in a way. Okay, they do got little ears. I was right about the little ears. Mine were not shaped the same, but that's fine. Okay, they kind of got like big, saggy, droopy eyes. They kind of have like flat heads. They have a nose, and you can see here, the nose gets up to there. And then it sort of like just droops. It just like falls. So it gets up to there, gets there, there's some nostrils, and then it falls. And then there's a little lip. They got little tiny lips that then curl up. So they are pretty doofy looking. Dude, how are these real? These are the weirdest looking things. I'm already noticing some patterns. So I'm kind of noticing like there's like a box. That's kind of their overall skull, and then it just sort of droops, so it's kind of a slant. That's their keystone. That's the equivalent of like a keystone for people. And then it gets out to that point that we talked about in the skull right here, and then it just flattens and just droops a bunch. And then it goes back into the skull. And sometimes I think it helps to exaggerate a little bit. So like I just made this droop like way more than it probably is, or at least a little bit more. But what I'm doing is just trying to emphasize the shapes. It's kind of like why you should exaggerate certain things in order to help memorize them, because it's actually giving the impression stronger as if you were to be subtle with it. My concern is not getting this to be accurate by any means. All I'm trying to do here is I am just trying to learn as much as I possibly can. It's not just enough to get an orthographic view of this. I want to really try and actually be able to draw this from a couple of different angles fairly accurately. Oh, that's interesting. Okay, so you can see the eye on the other side. Yeah, okay, so that means that I need to start doing front shots because these are all side shots. But if that eye is all the way over there, then that means that this is like super wide, way wider than I'm expecting it to be. Yeah, its eyes, okay, they definitely like go kind of to the side and then they go in. Wow, they stick out so much. Something that wasn't coming across in the side view is how much this nose is actually like cutting in with its form. It's like really, really prominently there to the point that it's it's like inserting into this sort of keystone area, but it's definitely intercepting some of these shapes. Okay, very, very square heads. Very square heads. That's kind of what I'm finding here. And then sort of trapezoids out. This is how I'm trying to make sense of this. I'm trying to think of it more in an orthographic way and less in a three-dimensional way so that eventually I can bring the three-dimensionality back into it. But I'm getting into more areas of specificity where previously I didn't even know what kind of ears they had. Now I kind of get a general sense that their ears just sort of end up tapering in there and then going out. So I wasn't too far off. All right, I got 10 minutes left. All right, now we got to study some of the body. Don't have a lot of time left. All right, got to speed run this. Okay, all right. That's time. Oh, geez. I think I have a pretty decent sense of how I'm going to do this. I'm going to draw a couple from my imagination. I'm just going to see how much more confident I feel and if I really, really learned. And then we're going to compare that to what I was doing previously. I mean, you saw me drawing a couple already from my imagination, and it definitely felt way more confident than previously. So, I mean, I'm learning like that generally the eye socket itself is way off to the side like this. And how the nostril ends up drooping, how it actually has a little divot before it then goes down. There's a little lip here, there's a little lip there. This is primarily all skeletal, but then there's usually some sort of like pocket of fur or skin in here. Then it drips down into the neck. Feels way, way, way more confident trying to draw this out than drawing whatever I was doing before, whatever was happening there previously. And I know that it now swoops up into a body. Now the body is interesting. I didn't get as much time to try and study the body, but I'm pretty sure I have a decent idea of how it would flow. So the hump, what I noticed, goes with the flow of the anatomy. It doesn't like stick into it or anything like that, which makes sense. It's like part of the body. It would be weird if it just sort of like was like a tumor sticking into it. The rib cage, the last thing I noticed was how wide it is and how it sort of has this like peak out the side. So really a lot of the body feels like it's sort of fitting within this wider rib cage, to the point that like at some angles it looked like it was even hiding some of the legs back here because of how thick it was. I saw the front legs generally reach all the way near the top where the rib cage is. Got really, really long limbs. Did not get into the specifics of how their toes work, but I know that they generally have toes. And I feel fairly confident that I could do another one from another angle, as I learned how far out the eye sockets actually stick. There's still some things I'm not totally certain of. Some of those would be mostly where it starts to get really, really heavy into structure and planes. And so I'm still a little uncertain on like exactly how this kind of all connects and how that would be like structurally more sound, but it's definitely enough to pass for now. All right, well, let's compare these to my first sketches.
Ew.
Oh, jeez. Oh my gosh. Oh man, yeah, there's old Chester Cheetah there. I wasn't too far off with some of these things. Okay, so I kind of had the droop actually already before I even saw the skeleton. I just had it way too far back where it needs to be further up. And I had this divot pretty prominent, and I found that like it's not really that prominent. It's pretty smooth how it ends up sort of folding over, even probably smoother than what I drew here, honestly. It's probably just something like that. So that's the video. I just wanted to show you guys that just 30 minutes of time invested, plus an extra 15 if you want to count like you drawing before and after and reference collecting and all that type of stuff. And you can have like a night and day difference between the quality of what you've done, and you learn so much in such a short amount of time. Now, This is one session. I'm gonna need to do multiple sessions if I were studying something in order to have a better understanding of actually what I'm doing. And I think it's important for people to be able to see that you can do this in such a short amount of time because you can still make progress even if you don't feel like you have a lot of time in the day. So I hope that this was fun. I hope it was an entertaining video. I hope that you guys got something out of it. As always, feel free to ask any questions down in the comment section below and I'd be happy to answer. And if you liked this video, please feel free to like and subscribe. You don't have to. I wouldn't. Okay, love you. Bye.